Lagbishi. He is a former deputy majority leader and former member of parliament for Ashaiman. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us here on the Morning Star.
Good morning.
Happy New Year to you, sir.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
I hope you're doing very well.
Yes.
Okay. So we are having a conversation about the 8th Parliament. And then we'll narrow it down to the Speaker of Parliament as well. Now, the 8th Parliament, when the numbers came up, there were many people who were very excited about it because there had been a clamor in the past for there to be a hung parliament someday in our legislature. We finally got something of that semblance. What would you say is your assessment of, the 8th Parliament?
Well, it has been very hectic for a parliament in view of the fact that it's a hard parliament and issues were well debated before decisions were taken. And it was a bit difficult for decisions to be taken because there was no clear majority which can pursue its agenda without any challenge. So it was difficult for decisions to be arrived. But it was well debated parliament, and I think that the issue of hard parliament is a bit okay. But for the acrimony that arose when they were going to elect the speaker, I would have said that it was a good thing. However, the majority of one was using its majority to do things which I consider not to be in the interest of the country. But all the same, I would say that the 8th Parliament did very well because there were some laws which we could not pass during the previous Parliament, but they managed to pass them successfully. So, to a large extent, I would say the 8th Parliament did it better.
Now, you talked about, how we had thorough debates on issues and it wasn't as easy for the majority to have its way because of the closeness of the numbers. It was just one that was differentiating the two sides apart. Now, what did you make of the regular resorts to the Supreme Court under the 8th Parliament?
Regular what?
Regular resorts to the Supreme Court.
I would say that was very, very bad. Why? Parliament has its own rules and way of operation. Even though they must operate within the law, with what is directed by the Constitution. But a frequent resort to the Constitution virtually impeded the work of Parliament. So, Parliament is an institution just like the judiciary, and each institution must operate to the best of its ability. But resort to Supreme Court to stifle its work was not in the best interest. I believe the 9th Parliament we would have learned from the experience of the 8th and scarcely resort to the Supreme Court or the judiciary anytime there's a small issue. When we were there, the leaders were always conscious of building. Issues were resolved around conscious matters, and we never went to the extent of going to court, going to Supreme Court for anything. We always did it among ourselves, particularly at the leadership level. So this result to the Supreme Court, I would say, is not the best, and it should be avoided as early as possible. You could see that getting to the close of the Parliament, the majority had it tough because if you always say the Supreme Court, if you say the Supreme Court or you resort to the Supreme Court, then you must go according to the Supreme Court and let the issues that you raised or the Supreme Court raised be followed. And that is not good for the work of Parliament. Parliament is not all legal. It's politics. Parliament is politics. It's not all legal. And so if you resort to legal, you end up in disastrous end. I think that there's frequent reference to the Supreme Court is not the best for the country.
So if there's anything you'd want the Ninth Parliament to learn from, it will be from this particular issue, especially from the Eighth Parliament.
Every institution, as far as possible, must stay in its lane. As far as possible, must stay in its lane. And the Ninth Parliament must learn that their lane is to make law. They will resort to the Supreme Court scarcely, sparingly, and that will let Parliament grow. Now, they are not making Parliament to grow, to develop, because Supreme Court will always put fetter on its hands in trying to develop. So the Ninth Parliament must learn from the experience of the Eighth, of what happened in the later days of the Eighth Parliament, and scarcely, sparingly resort to the Supreme Court.
Now, let's switch our attention and talk about the Speaker of Parliament. But let me ask one last question about the Eighth Parliament as well. Many people said they had expected a lot more consensus building. Looking at the numbers, it was just one that was separating the two. Some say they didn't see as much. It was more of a tit-for-tat situation in the chamber. Is that what you saw as well?
Tit-for-tat?
Yes, it was more of a show of power, more of it from the two sides most often.
Oh yes, a hung parliament will definitely produce tit-for-tat situation. But if we understand each other, we build consensus, tit-for-tat should not come. But the way the majority, particularly the leadership of the majority, was taking it, that is why it appeared there's a situation of tit-for-tat. That should not be the situation. But that was brought about by the conduct, by the behavior of the majority, particularly the majority bench, which is so bad, very bad.
All right, now let's talk about the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Kingsford Suman Nabagbin, and he was a Speaker of the Eighth Parliament. First of all, what would you say is your assessment as well? How would you assess him for his role in the Eighth Parliament?
Now, if you are awarding mark 100, David would have taken 90%. To me, he did extremely well. So, if you want to go further to say, let him continue, because he has gained a lot of experience in handling serious situations, and so he should continue. And that is why I would have wished that he continues to be the Speaker of the next Parliament.
You would actually award him a 90 if you were to award marks?
Yes, if I was to award marks out of 100, he scored 90 to me.
I mean, that essentially means his job was excellent, correct?
If you want to say beyond excellent, above excellent, yes, to me.
What would you say to those who said that at a point, I've heard the first Deputy Speaker, for instance, Joe Sewusu, who says that the Speaker of Parliament made the Eighth Parliament about himself, issuing lengthy statements on issues, and most of the controversies that came out of the 8th Parliament was mainly from some of the Speaker's rulings that were challenged at the various courts.
Well, the fact that his statements were challenged in court doesn't mean that they were not true. But soon you realize that his ruling about if you leave your party and go and stand independent, and then you lose your seat. Very soon you see the reality in that statement. But you see, a speaker is like a judge. He takes all issues into consideration and come up with a decision. His decision may be wrong. You sitting or study somewhere may say that is not the way you would have judged it, but that is the way he sees it, and that is the way I will also see it. So, to me, yes, anybody who takes a decision which affects a human being must be prepared that his decision will be subject to scrutiny, and a third body will look at his decision. It is not bad, it's part of human life. So his decision being challenged is not a new thing. It's not odd. It is part of human life. It is permitted. Permitted.
Now, the President-elect, John Dramani Mahama, in consultation with the party and then also the parliamentary leadership of the NDC as well, they settled on Alban Bagbin to be the speaker for the 9th Parliament. So it is subject to the election that is expected to be conducted later on in the evening or at midnight today for the 9th Parliament. Best decision? I'd like to hear your response to that first, and then I'll ask my subsequent ones. What do you say to the decision to maintain Alban Bagbin as a speaker?
The president is NDC. That is his party. And his party is assumed power. And he must lead capable hands, able lieutenants to pursue his agenda. And if he thinks that Bagbin is one who can pursue his agenda, then it is proper that he sees that person is elected. To some extent, I would say that he would have left it to the party to decide. But even if he does that, if he leaves it to the party to decide, the party may not bring somebody of his choice. And that may be dangerous for his, because he has stood election, he has come up with a manifesto, and he must pursue it. And the people who must help him to pursue his manifesto, he needs to bring them on board. So if Bagbin is one of them, is the one he seeks to pursue the issue from parliamentary level, I think that he's right in deciding on him and asking MPs to elect him. But all the same, we are all human beings, so we differ in our view. Somebody was saying that he should have left it to the parliament to do. But no. The parliament, he is the head of the state. He is the head of government, and he must see to it that the government succeeds. And if Bagbin will let him proceed, then it is proper that he nominates him. I think there is nothing wrong with that.
Now, if that is the thinking for that selection, I mean, what happens then to the independence of the various arms of government? Does that not indirectly mean that the executive has some form of control over the legislature? They are supposed to be. I don't know.
Does it mean to you that the president, being the head of NDC, the party that has won power, he should sit unconcerned for the NDC not to do what the president has put for in the manifesto for which they voted for him? If he does that and he fails, who is going to fail? Is he not the one? So he can't sit alone he cannot sit alone, because if he went to the people, campaigned with them, told them something, they believed him, they accepted it, and voted for him. So his vision must be pursued, and he needs somebody who must pursue his vision or his agenda, and he thinks that Babin is the one who could do it for him. And that is why I'm also coming from that angle, that his agreement that they should nominate or vote for Babin is proper. For the mere reason that is the president that says, I am going to rule this country, and this is the way I want to rule it, and these are the people who will help me to rule the country. So he can't sit aloof for other people to do other things. I think I agree with him.
Now, there are those who have said that perhaps this should have been used as an opportunity to, give Parliament a fresh start by, nominating someone else instead of Alban Bagbin. What do you say to that as well? Do you believe more in the continuity, or you also think that perhaps there should have been a fresh start?
I believe in continuity. You see, you can't construct a building and let somebody you don't know come and occupy it and destroy it for you. He has built his he has constructed his building. The people he knew must come and live in it.
All right, so you believe that it ought to be continued. What do you expect of Alban Bagbin in this 9th Parliament? Should he get the chance to lead? Because this selection is subject to election by the new members of Parliament.
Bagbin, I expect him to be a speaker, to do what speakers do, not forgetting the fact that his background is NDC, and he must also pursue his duties, must do his duties, having in mind his background as NDC. That's what I expect him to do.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. We are grateful that you were able to speak to us.
I'm also grateful.
All right. You had us engage the former member of Parliament for Ashaiman, Alfred Agbishi. He is also a former deputy majority. Former deputy majority leader as well. We're speaking to him on the 8th Parliament, and then also the selection of Alban Bagbin by the NDC to be put forward as the Speaker of Parliament for the 9th Parliament. This is still the Morning Star here on Star 103.5 FM. I did tell you that we'd like to also hear from you in relation to the 8th Parliament, what your assessment of it will